The housing crisis continues unabated, and yet we have a massive surplus of abandoned buildings and housing that is simply not being utilized. My name is Samuel Ronan, and I hope to be your president one day. And something that is not often talked enough or talked enough about is the fact that despite having a housing crisis where mortgages are inflating, the cost of the housing itself is dramatically multiplying, there is an overwhelming amount of empty space, empty buildings, not condemned, just not being used or needing a slight touch up that cities themselves own. So why is it that we aren't repurposing all of these structures to deal with this housing crisis? And furthermore, why is it that the highest rising home buyer are investment firms? First-time homeowners are dropping below the 20 percentile for the first time in decades. And with good reason. When the average price of a home is $400,000 and the average income is $60,000, that you don't have to be a genius at math to realize that that's not sustainable. That's not doable, especially when 30 or 40 years ago, it was a 3-to-1 ratio. And despite the mortgage rates being what they were back then, it was significantly lower in cost in general, right? 18% on 15,000 versus 7% on 400,000. The numbers don't be numbering, right? And the same thing with all of these empty buildings, right? We're seeing it not just in the residential sector, but also the private sector. Lots of these office spaces, off of these corporate buildings are empty. These penthouses on top of skyscrapers or in the middle or what have you. They're not being utilized. And then, of course, there are the condemned buildings that are just, again, taking up space, when instead we could be putting all of our tax dollars to, repurposing these things, actually creating an affordable housing program, actually creating a homelessness to, sustainability program, kind of like what Finland did. Or hell, creating a lottery for first-time home buyers. Hey, you can buy it off of the state bought it, the state owns it, the state refurbished it. Here you go, first-time home buyers, you have first crack. Why is it that instead of doing anything that would be useful in repurposing these things, we are instead allowing this crisis to continue?